Ziggy, what are you barking at? Don't bark at the thrill seekers. Hi there, thrill seekers. Ziggy's barking at you. And I'm barking at you with some more Zen stuff. I thought I would continue on with some more material from Shobo Genzo's Zui Monkey, which I talked about in my previous episode. It is a record of things heard by Koun Eijo, Dogen's attendant. Apparently, this was originally compiled for Eijo's own use. He didn't intend to share it with anybody or leave it as a record, but then after Eijo died, one of Eijo's students found it and decided to make it available to the rest of the monastery, and that's how it's come down to us now. And there's a new version of this coming out later this year from Shohaku Okumura, and the version I'm going to read is also Shohaku Okumura. There are apparently two different editions of Shobo Genzo's Zui Monkey. So this one is one of the ones, and the version that's coming out later in the year is the other version. And the differences are mostly in terms of the order of the chapters. They're different chapter orders, but the material within the chapters is mostly the same with a couple of other differences. So, as I said before, in case you missed it, here is another translation of Shobo Genzo's Zui Monkey. This one tends to be a little easier to find, so if you're hot to find it right now and can't wait for the new version from Shohaku Okumura, then you're probably better off looking up A Primer of Soto Zen by Reiho Masunaga. This one I can't remember where I found it, but it's published by the Soto Shu Shumucho in Japan, so I probably got it in Japan, and it's probably not that easy to find, but you can go look for it if you want. Anyway, the passage I want to read is Book 1, Chapter 1, or whatever, Section 1 in this version, and I believe it's Book 2, Chapter 1 in the other version, which moves the chapters around. So let me just read it to you. One day Dogen said, in the Zoku Koso Den, which is continued biographies of eminent monks, there is a story about a monk in the assembly of a certain Zen master. The monk worshipped a golden image of the Buddha as well as the relics of the Buddha. Those are supposed bone fragments and things of the Buddha that were circulated around here and there. And it's similar to pieces of the true cross in Christianity. There were pieces supposedly of the cross Jesus was crucified on, and apparently if you collected all of those, you'd make a gigundous cross. And I think the bones of the Buddha would probably make a gigundous Buddha. So there's more supposed bones of the Buddha than actual bones that would be in a person. Let's continue. Even in the dormitory, which is where he lived, he constantly burned incense and prostrated himself before them. That's his relics and his golden image of the Buddha, honoring and making offerings. One day, the master said to the monk, the image and relics of the Buddha which you worship will eventually be harmful to you. The monk was not convinced. The master continued, this is the doing of the demon Papias. Throw them away right now. And Papias is another name for Mara, who was the supposed demon who tempted the Buddha, trying to get him to not meditate and become Buddha. Doesn't matter, it's a demon. As the monk was leaving in anger, the master shouted after him, open the box and look inside. Although angry, the monk opened up the box. He found a poisonous snake lying coiled up inside. As I think about this story, this is Dogen again, the images and relics of the Buddha should be revered, since they are the form and bones left by the Tathagata, that's the Buddha. Nevertheless, it is a false view to think that you will be able to gain enlightenment only through worshipping them, or through only worshipping them is probably how I would put it, like that would be your main form of practice. Such a view will cause you to become possessed by the demon and the poisonous snake. Ooh, like the exorcist. Since the merit of the Buddha's teaching does not change, reverence of images and relics will certainly bring blessings to human and heavenly beings, equal to paying reverence to the living Buddha. In general, it is true that if you revere and make offerings to the world of the three treasures, let's see what the footnote on that says. The three treasures of Buddhism are the Buddha, who is the awakened, one who is awakened to reality and teaches it, 2, the Dharma, the reality and the teaching which points to the reality, and 3, the Sangha, the community of people who follow the teaching. The world of the 3 treasures is quite different from the realm of samsara, that's, the regular earthly realm, based on delusions or desires. Okay. Your faults will disappear, and you will gain merit. The karma that leads you to the evil realms will be removed, and you will be reborn in the realms of human and heavenly beings. However, it is a mistaken view to expect to gain enlightenment of the Dharma this way. Since being the Buddha's child is following the Buddha's teaching and reaching Buddhahood directly, we must devote ourselves to following the teachings and put all our efforts into the practice of the way. The true practice, which is in accordance with the teaching, is nothing but shikantaza, that is, zazen, the kind of directionless zazen that Dogen taught, which is zazen done without any hope or attempt to reach any sort of a goal, goalless practice. The true practice, which is in accordance with the teaching, is nothing but shikantaza, which is the essence of life in this sorin, or monastery, today. Think this over deeply. And a couple of little notes that I'll read. Samsara, these are random footnotes that I'm just going to read on their own. Samsara is categorized into 6 realms. Hell, the realm of insatiable spirits, those are hungry ghosts, animals, asura demons, human and heavenly beings. The first 3 are called the evil realms, while the other 3 are called the good realms. Sometimes the first 4 are called the evil realms, and the last 2 are called the good realms. So what would be the first 4? Hell, realm of heavenly spirits, animals, and asura demons. So asura demons may be good or may be bad. And about that thing about Buddha's children, human beings become the Buddha's children by receiving the Buddha's precepts through ordination. So this passage from Zui Bonki kind of relates to some of the stuff I've been talking about this week, which is what is Buddhism and is Buddhism a religion and all of that. And let me see if I can tie those things together. Somebody asked in the comments section about if Buddhism is not a religion, then what about all this bowing and chanting and ritual that is done? What about priests with their shaved heads? What about their robes and all of that? And as I said yesterday, to me these are ways in which Buddhism can be carried on. There is a real Dharma at the center of all of this. Dharma is a real teaching at the center of all of this. And the way it is carried on from generation to generation is with this kind of cake that's built around it. In Mexican culture, there's this tradition around New Year's where you make this cake with a little plastic baby Jesus in it, and everybody eats the cake, and whoever gets the piece with the plastic baby Jesus in it has to make a meal for everybody. Since my wife's family is all Mexican, we've practiced this tradition for years. So when I think of this, of the Dharma, I think of that little baby Jesus in the cake. It's just the image that comes to mind. So the cake carries it forward, and the cake is something like everybody wants to eat the cake, right? And because they eat the cake, they accidentally might swallow the baby Jesus. I'm sorry, I've stretched the metaphor way too far for everything to make any sense. But that's kind of the way I think of it. It's something that carries it forward. And these practices are good practices. This is what Dogen seems to me to be trying to say in this passage, that they are not bad practices. So, of course, following the precepts, definitely not a bad practice. Revering the examples he gives. See, I take these examples rather than specific things. So he talks about worshiping the golden image of Buddha and the relics of Buddha. Things like that will help you build good karma. That is the theory in Buddhism, because they're good things to do and they're helpful practices. But they are not the essential practice. The essential practice is zazen. And this is what Dogen says over and over. So if Buddhism is a religion, then maybe the carrier parts of Buddhism could be considered a religion. And there's a good reason why the early Buddhists chose these practices to be the carrier of what they considered to be the true sacred practice, which is shikantaza, which is formless, goalless meditation. And that's because they've been proven to be good. They've been proven to be very useful and effective carriers of things. There's a book that I read years ago called, I believe, Religion for Atheists and Bottin. Alain de Bottin, I think is the name of the author, a French guy, who talks about how useful Buddhist practice, not Buddhist practices, but we could talk about why they're Buddhist practices. Religious practices are for non-religious people, because all of these practices that were developed around religion, the rituals and the repetition and the chanting and these kind of things are very useful for just mundane things like memorization. If you want to, I've memorized a lot of things because of the way they are carried in religious services. I've mentioned this before. For some reason, I have memorized the Lord's Prayer, and I never went to church. I mean, I've gone to churches here and there, a handful of times in my life, but I never went to church. Yet I still know the Lord's Prayer. So these kind of things are very useful and very effective ways of carrying forward a tradition. But it's important not to get too hung up on the carriers so that we lose sight of the actual tradition itself, or the actual thing they're supposed to carry itself. So only eating the cake and spitting out the baby Jesus just to ruin the metaphor some more would be the wrong thing to do. And I think that this is what's happened in a lot of places in the world, and my teacher would be an example of one of the reactions of certain people in Japan to it. I was called out on the comment section for cultural appropriation, for saying Buddhism isn't a religion. But the person who taught me that Buddhism isn't a religion, the person who really hammered that in, was Gudo Wafu Nishijima, aka Nishijima Kazuo, that was his birth name, my teacher, who was Japanese. And he, like other people such as Shunryu Suzuki, Kodo Sawaki, Dainin Katagiri, I think Kobanchino would probably count himself. They're all passed away, but I think he would probably count himself among these, were people who saw Japanese Buddhism as a case where the cake, just to completely destroy this metaphor, had become more important than the little baby Jesus inside the cake. So people weren't doing zazen, but they were consuming the cake, the religious stuff that surrounded it, which again is not a bad thing, but they were missing the essential thing that was meant to carry forward, which was the practice of zazen. So all of that religious ritual and stuff can be useful, and I wrote an article. If you go to the FAQ section of hardcorezen.info, you'll see a piece called "What's the Deal with Buddhist Ceremonies?" I think that's the title, something close to that. An article that I wrote a few years ago, about 6 years ago, about what I think of these traditional things and what their actual usefulness is, but they're definitely not the essential teaching. So there you go. That's from Shobogenzo Zui Monkey. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to enjoy more stuff from me, if you want to support me making more stuff for you to enjoy, you can go to the URL you are seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main means of making a living, and I really appreciate your support. But as always, this is offered for free, so you don't got to donate if you don't want to donate. I'm going to go figure out what Ziggy's barking at. He's going to lose his voice barking so much, but I think he's just barking at the empty recycling bins. We will see you later. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Ziggy, what are you barking at? What's out there? Should I go see? Is there somebody out there? What's going on? What you looking at, Ziggy? I better go check. Oh, that's what he's barking at. He's getting a treat. Don't be afraid. He's just got a treat for you, Ziggy.